Greetings again. I have a subject I'd like to talk to you about that we have seen a lot, actually in the news a good bit. A lot of people concerned, fearful, etc. Do they have a reason to be concerned, or are they just overreacting? First of all, I do a terrible job of inviting you to comment, to like, give me a thumbs up, to make your own input, your own ideas, share. So this community will build with people sharing thoughts. So far, I'm not getting a lot of that. Subscribe. More people subscribe, you'll automatically get these brilliant comments by me and suggestions of videos and things like that. So, so please do that. Okay, that out of the way. So we've had, you've got what happened in Hawaii last year, what's happening in California. It may be over now, but the inauguration sort of taken our eyes off of that. I don't know what's going on exactly. And the what happened in Appalachia, up around Asheville, North Carolina, and eastern Tennessee, etc. So, in each of these cases, and not only these cases, these are just very well-known cases. There is a lot of accusation that the whole plan is a plan that they want to take these people's land and redevelop it for other purposes. Well, that's probably true, but we need to look at what is that about. Now, I've had my toe in the water on this stuff for years because as a landscape architect, the average person may not realize that landscape architects do a lot of planning. Okay, you may design with plants, but a lot of landscape architects are planners. They're not even, they hardly do a plant design. They plan communities. And that's all they do, some companies of landscape architects. So I'm involved with that on various levels, and particularly on a professional level, working with my professional organization and whatnot. And I've been very involved and provided leadership, etc., in the sustainability efforts for our my professional organization at one point. And because of that, I learned a whole lot. And I participated in a whole lot of things. I participated in a lot of government programs. In the other video, I think I've mentioned that, the way the game's played is the government and or the non-governmental agencies and groups who want to have influence, who have developers who, either one, they work for developers who would like to do a particular kind of thing, or they see the possibility that if they do a particular kind of thing, this is the kind of thing developers would like, whatever. Doesn't really matter. But there are people who, have vision. It's good to have vision. Now, vision is how we have places like Paris. The great boulevards of Paris were designed. The king said, "Let's knock down all these slums and things, and let's design something that's great." And that Nero burned Rome, right, so that he could build back better. Okay, so this whole build back better notion, which, by the way, build back better is now it possibly very rightly has gotten a bad name because generally the people who want to build back better want to take maybe what you have and do something else with it, because what you're doing with it just isn't good enough for them, for whatever reason. Some because they want to make a buck, others because they just have vision. They want to improve the community, improve the life of all humanity. There can be very altruistic reasons for wanting to do these things. But the G7 came up, back in 2021, they came up with that, and the Build Back Better idea. And it got a bad rap here in the United States when the politicians started using, we're going to build back better. Well, some people didn't want to be built back better. And so sort of went sideways in that case. But so that's the what you do, what they do, the way it is done is, we have these. Somebody has an idea. Whoever comes up with the ideas or whatever, and then let's have a community meeting, and we talk to the community. And what they basically do is they educate the community about what they want to do because they are brilliant planners, and brilliant planners have better ideas than the average citizen. Okay. So and look, it's true that because I've been there. You think you know more than the other guy because you have the expertise. It's an arrogance, okay? And some of us never get past being that arrogant, okay? Hopefully, I've gotten past it to a degree. But anyway, so they have great ideas, and they want to present them to you, the community, and then you, the community, are supposed to say, yes, that's a great idea. Now, and then, of course, what happens, unfortunately, in so many of these kind of meetings is people come in who are over here with their crazy idea. Look, here's an example. It's not a crazy idea. To them, it's a right, logical idea. But I remember sitting in a community meeting at one time, and they were trying to preserve some natural lands. Well, they're not preserving every piece of land in the world. They'd have certain areas that they were trying to preserve. And people who had historically, ever since they were kids, they were able to get on their three-wheelers and stuff like that and drive all through the woods and everything, and nobody was in their way. And now they might not be able to drive through the woods in their three-wheelers, because if you drive through that particular piece of woods, well, that particular piece of woods is supposed to be there for eagles and raccoons and Florida panther and whatnot. It's there. That's the whole purpose of preserving it for wildlife. And these people were like, "Hey, you can't do that. We want to drive our three-wheelers through everything." Well, somewhere there's a compromise. But the point I'm trying to make is, for three people who are used to, who lived out in the country or would go out in the country to their buddies' land and drive all over the place, you're inconveniencing a very small group of people for the greater good of the whole community. Let's see, there's the argument. The greater good of the community, so somebody's got to give up something, all right? And it's one thing to give up your ability to drive your three-wheeler on or four-wheeler on on a 10-acre, 15-acre patch of land somewhere. That's one thing for 20 people to have to not be able to have to find somewhere else to do that, right? But in fact, hey, there's an opportunity to make it a living. You can open up your piece of land that you own to four-wheelers, right? I mean, so there's compromises that can be made, Anyway, you have the meeting, and you educate the people about what they need to do, and the people say, "Oh, you're brilliant. We agree. We're gonna do what you," and they can have a public or an election, a vote on it. It can be a public vote. That's fair and everything, and that's the way it goes now. And it may be the ideas of your state Department of Transportation, who sees that the best place to put a road is here or there. It could be that your courthouse or your state capitol building or whatever needs to be expanded. And, as so often has been historically, the areas, a lot of cities have gone through redevelopment, but when I was younger, a lot of cities were going downhill, from their heyday in the 20s or 30s. And, they'd gone through the Great Depression and World War II, and people had moved to other places. And just like today, we build houses different today than we did 50 years ago. And 50 years ago, you definitely built them different than people built them 50 years before that. So areas of communities, just people moved out of, and those became rundown areas. So, hey, that's urban blight. We need to do something better with that. Okay? So, there's good reasons that some agency, somebody comes up with to do these things. And what do we, how do they take care of that? They historically took care of it with eminent domain, which was a big deal. I remember as a young person. Hey, the interstate is coming through the middle of our town, and you're knocking out historic neighborhoods of a particular culture. And these were good, valid arguments. You know, the neighborhoods might have been run down to nothing with a house every other lot or something, and no inside plumbing or something. But it's a valid argument. You were destroying this whole thing about gentrification. You hear some people complaining about gentrification. That's the same thing where now normally gentrification is not done through eminent domain. It's the natural process of all your hip people moving back into the city and taking over all the old homes and industrial buildings and revamping them and stuff and making them hip, right? And then the poor people who live in that area, well, they can no longer afford to live in that area. So that's what gentrification does. But it does improve the quality of the area. There's no doubt about it. So once again, people trying to improve the quality. But there's, people who lived out in Maui and saw their homes, these are people who lived maybe a few blocks, 1 block, 50 yards from the beach or from where they go to their fishing boats or whatever. They loved the place they lived in. These people who live up in outside of Asheville, hey, they lived in a floodplain, unfortunately, that nobody realized was a floodplain up until a month or so ago, right? A couple of months ago. They didn't, well, or let me restate that. They didn't realize it, or they had never experienced a flood. It may be, yes, that there had been calculations done by, scientists who knew that this is a floodplain, and maybe they were paying floodplain insurance. If you live in a floodplain, you typically pay higher insurance because of that. I made sure I don't buy a house that is in a floodplain because I don't want to. Why pay that money? I can buy a house a few blocks away maybe and not be in a floodplain. But anyway, if this is your historic home, this is where Grandpa bought the house, and they used to have a farm here, and now maybe the family split up the land, and somebody still lives on the original farmhouse, and then the brother or sister lives up the hill or whatever, right? I mean, these kind of things happen all the time. Brother or sister's okay, their house didn't get washed away, but you lived in a floodplain, your house gets washed away. Now, can you pay to live there? Do you have the money to rebuild, etc.? So, maybe you can't, and that's a sad situation to lose your home place. It's a sad situation for these people out in California their homes are gone. They're just burnt and gone. Which of those people can afford to build back? Which of those people want to build back? Some people don't want to build back, which of course means that maybe the value of the property goes down. So that means somebody can come in and therefore people can come in and buy it right up because they don't want to build back. So whether you don't want to build back or you can't build back, that's one issue. And that happens to a lot of people. When I was younger, as I said, though, you had eminent domain. And I wanted to talk a little bit about eminent domain. And I printed out something for Wikipedia. Well, I like to use Wikipedia because it's probably going to give us the ideas of those who are in power. That's the way I see it, all right? I'm not going to get some far right or some extremely left wing idea on Wikipedia because they're probably going to be in the middle. Now, it may be that, yes, there are a few ideas that are sort of extremely left that are on the internet that have been officially approved to be okay by the powers that be, okay? But anyway, so that's my point. The powers that be have not been approving up until today. I don't know, it's inauguration day. So maybe it'll change, but the powers that be have been improving things toward the left and not toward the right. So anyway, this is eminent domain. And I'm just going to read some stuff right off of here. We've got Why are people concerned about this? Because of the idea, in Britain, they've already taken some cities and um, put roadblocks and things in them because they're trying to create these 15-minute cities. This is all part of that Build Back Better stuff. Okay, the idea by some is that you can't travel by car outside of your 15-minute area without paying some a fee or something like that. So forget about getting a taxi to get out of town. You got to pay the taxi and then pay a special fee to leave town or your area, your neighborhood, right? So and look, this is not new stuff. 15-minute cities is sort of new, but the whole idea of walkability, this new urbanism that's been going on for the last few decades, at least. New urbanism. Look it up if you want to learn all about it. But it's all about walkability, being able to walk places. So you're now seeing communities where they don't want big box stores, they don't want shopping centers, they want little nodes here, there, and every 5 minutes, every 5 or 10 minutes, to have a node where you can have a grocery store and shops and offices, etc. So people can walk to work and walk to get their food and stuff like this. In other words, they want a little New York City neighborhood, traditional New York City neighborhood, or any bigger city that people might have grown up in. My wife likes the idea. It's always been a rather idealistic idea that you just when you want a meal, you go to the store and you get what you need and you bring it home. Now, I, on the other hand, grew up more like the what is it? Little House on the Prairie. You not quite as extreme as that, but on Little House on the Prairie, once a month you went into town and bought all your stores and brought it home and put it in your pantry, and then you fed out of your pantry, and that was a little bit more my there were if we didn't feed out of our pantry. When I was growing up, well, then we had made a mistake at the grocery store and hadn't bought everything we needed, and then you'd have to go and get something. But that was a mistake, right? That was a problem. Anyway, so 5 minutes, walkable cities is a place where you just can walk down to go to the the bakery, get your bakery goods, go to the butcher, get your butcher goods. That's the whole idealistic idea of this, all right? Go to the seamstress, whatever. You don't have to go to the gas station all the time, right? Because you're not driving your car hardly at all. Everybody's got a bicycle. 15 minutes in a city's not too much different than that. So this bothers a lot of people that they're losing their liberty. They're losing their liberty, and because they can't go where they want to go. They can't go to the store that's half hour away if they want to go. All right, not without some extreme circumstance they can do it. Eminent domain is eminent domain is known as land acquisition. It's a governmental kind of thing, but it's not necessarily government in the strict sense. So they couldn't do this. Take your private property without a valid purpose, and this power can be legislatively delegated by the state to municipalities, government subdivisions, which mean other kind of government agencies, or even to private persons or corporations. The state can do this. Not the national government, but the state. Unless maybe this word state means any state, national state, or state, local state. Anyway, state municipality, the state can delegate the power to municipalities, government subdivisions, even private persons or corporations when they are authorized to exercise the functions of public character. So as long as you're developing for the greater good of the community, then you can take people's land. They just can't sit there and be in the way. Right? Okay. I'll read this paragraph. The most common uses of property taken by eminent domain have been for roads, government buildings, and public utilities. Many railroads were given the right of eminent domain to obtain land or easements in order to build and connect rail networks. And you've probably seen movies where that's sort of an issue. The railroad's coming through town and they're taking land, right? an old cowboy movie or something like that. In the mid 20th century, a new application of eminent domain was pioneered, in which the government could take the property and transfer it to a private third party for redevelopment, not to build a road, but just to redevelop the area. This was initially done only to a property that had been deemed blighted, quotation marks, or a development impediment. Okay, something that was in the way of good development, on the principle that such properties had a negative impact upon surrounding property owners, but was later expanded to allow the taking of any private property when the new third-party owner could develop the property in such a way as to bring in increased tax revenues to the government. So there you have that, right? Your little low shack is not giving us very much tax, and it's hurting the whole value of all the property in your neighborhood. So we want to get rid of your shack, your little old little old store that's been on the corner for the last 75 years, and you sit out there in front of it on a crate, smoking a cigarette and drinking soda pop, and it's not doing much good. So we want to wipe you out and bring in somebody who's going to make that land worth a lot more money and bring in more taxes for the community, and then the whole community is going to benefit, and we can build ball fields and etc., hospitals, whatever. So anyway, that's what eminent domain is, and it is used. It's not always used though, because sometimes communities want to, and I've always supported the kind of things here locally. We have like a environmental program where the county purchases land from landowners who, so that they're not getting have their land just taken from them, but they can go out there and negotiate with them and get a fair market value and pay the landowner for their property. I think normally that works in these cases probably to the benefit. There's some people who've said, look, you're buying a wetland, but they can't develop on a wetland anyway. The wetland's not worth anything to an owner. So why are you paying them money to buy a wetland? But they do own it. And certainly, at one period of time, it probably, was worth something. You could let your cows go and drinking water in the wetland or whatever. So I don't know. So there's pros and cons to all of that. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. Eminent domain is on the books, and the best we can do is try to be fair to people whenever the greater good is in need. But this whole idea, when I was younger, I was all pretty much for the greater good. That's called utilitarianism, alrighty, and that's a good, that's what your communists would agree with, right? The greater good. So you can, Stalin could wipe out a lot of peasants because it was for the greater good, right? But we're raised with that, and if you're young, you've probably been, taught that seems like a great thing, the greater good. That what is better for most people is, too bad for the one. We're sorry for you, but we have to do what's for the greater good. But in our country, we have this situation where we believe in personal rights, and so we have a pretty big conflict between the greater good sometimes and one's personal rights. So there has to be we have to find a trade-off that's fair. That's something that we have to work on in any circumstance that comes along like that, because we're not King Louis who can just wipe out whatever neighborhood, or Nero that we can wipe out whatever we want to and have our city or neighborhood be whatever we want it to be. Anyway, please like, subscribe, comment, share. I didn't say share at the beginning. Share. And if you got some idea, you think I'm full of air, hot air, then go ahead and tell me I'm full of hot air. Uh, it's hurtful, but try to be kind. Anyway, have a good day.